The story of Elza Trevern and the Golden Bond. Elza stumbled through the misty village square, her body swaying slightly as concerned villagers gently guided her back toward the orphanage. She felt dazed, her amber eyes glazed and struggling to focus. Two women held her steady, their hands supporting her delicate frame, while Solomon, her black kitten, walked closely by her side, his golden eyes glowing with a mixture of concern and loyalty. The villagers' expressions were a mix of worry and curiosity, none of them sure of what had just happened. The air felt thick with tension, the swirling mist adding to the unease as the scene unfolded. Elza could barely process the world around her, her mind lost in the fog of the events that had just occurred. Once back inside the orphanage, Elza was quietly led to her small room. She sat down on her bed, her thoughts distant and hazy, as if trying to piece together the strange, disorienting experiences. Her hands rested loosely in her lap, her eyes fixed on nothing in particular, the weight of the events leaving her unable to move or speak. Solomon jumped onto the bed beside her, his golden eyes fixed on her face, sensing her confusion. The room around them was dimly lit, with a single candle flickering weakly, casting long shadows on the worn furniture. The quiet was suffocating, broken only by the distant sounds of other children playing in the halls. But Elza remained lost in her thoughts, her mind racing as she tried to make sense of it all. The room was eerily still as Elza knelt by her bed, her hand pressed to her forehead, trying to recall the foggy memories of the village square. What had really happened? Why was she feeling this way? Solomon lay beside her, his golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light, offering a silent comfort that she didn't quite understand. She felt disconnected, as though her thoughts were slipping away before she could fully grasp them. The only sound was the faint rustling of the curtains as the wind blew outside. The shadows seemed to press in on her, intensifying her sense of unease. She stayed silent, unwilling to speak the questions that haunted her. In the orphanage room, the other girls were playing, laughing, and chatting around Elza, but she didn't hear them. She sat at a small desk, flipping through a book, but the words blurred on the pages, her thoughts far away. The other girls seemed oblivious to her inner turmoil, some sitting on the floor, others drawing or whispering. One girl, with ginger hair styled in two thin braids, giggled and dashed past her, breaking through the silence with her playful voice. Yet Elza remained distant, unable to focus on anything but the strange events that had happened earlier. Solomon sat beside her on the desk, watching her carefully with his golden eyes, his tiny form a constant, comforting presence. The flickering candlelight created soft shadows on the walls, a peaceful contrast to the growing tension inside Elza's mind. The caretaker, a young woman in her late 20s, stood in the doorway, watching over the children as they settled down for the evening. Her stern yet composed expression held an air of authority. She wore a faded dress and apron, her dark hair tied neatly under a bonnet. One hand rested lightly on the doorframe, while the other was slightly raised, silently instructing the girls to head to bed. The hallway behind her was empty, the silence of the orphanage hanging in the air like a heavy veil. The moonlight filtered through the dusty windows, casting gentle shadows across the worn wooden floor, while the caretaker's gaze swept over the room. She didn't need to say much. Her presence alone commanded attention, and the girls obeyed, slowly quieting down. As Elza lay in bed, her body still from the exhaustion of the day, she fell into a deep, restless sleep. Her face was calm, but her body twitched slightly, as if her dreams were trying to pull her into a world of their own. Solomon sat at the edge of the bed, his golden eyes gleaming faintly as he watched her. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, adding a whisper of movement to the quiet room. In the depths of her sleep, Elza's mind was flooded with vivid images, flashes of her childhood with Solomon, the glowing runes, and an eerie mist surrounding her. The dream grew more intense as her connection with Solomon strengthened. The air in the room seemed to grow colder, and Elza was drawn deeper into the vision, closer to something ancient and powerful. In the dream, a younger Elza, with long black hair and deep amber eyes, ran joyfully through a sunlit meadow. Her patched-up grey dress swirled around her, her laughter filling the air as she chased Solomon, the sleek black kitten bounding ahead with his glowing golden eyes. The meadow was soft and golden, bathed in warm sunlight, the distant mountains standing tall in the background. The flowers beneath her feet swayed gently in the breeze. Elza's laughter echoed as she chased Solomon, their bond pure and unbreakable. The world around them felt timeless, filled with a serene peace. But even in this peaceful moment, there was something in the distance, something darker watching them from the shadows. Elza's dream continued, showing her younger self spinning in the meadow, her face full of joy and innocence. She held Solomon in her arms, his tiny paws resting gently on her arm as he nestled into her embrace. The golden sunlight seemed to glow even brighter around them, highlighting the magical connection between them. The world felt suspended in a moment of happiness and peace. But the distant shadow of something unknown lingered, always on the edge of her vision. Elza awoke suddenly, her breath shallow and uneven as she sat up in bed. The dream was still vivid in her mind, the images lingering like echoes in her thoughts. She looked around the dark room, the moonlight casting soft shadows on the walls. Solomon was at her side, his golden eyes glowing faintly as he stared at her, his gaze both comforting and protective. The air in the room felt heavy, charged with magic. Elza rubbed her forehead, still feeling the weight of the dream. Her mind raced, but her lips remained sealed. She didn't know what the vision meant or what it had to do with her connection to Solomon. All she knew was that something deep within her had shifted. Sitting by the window, Elza hugged her knees to her chest, staring out into the dark night. The cool breeze ruffled her hair, and Solomon curled up beside her, resting his small head on her knee. His golden eyes glowed softly in the dim light, the only source of warmth in the otherwise dark room. Elza's thoughts were far away, her mind trying to piece together the strange events and the bond she shared with Solomon. The magic between them was growing stronger, pulsing within her like a living thing. She could feel it, deep in her bones. The quiet night outside contrasted with the storm of thoughts inside her, as she began to understand that there was more to her connection with the kitten than she had ever realized. Something ancient was awakening inside her, and she was no longer sure of what the future held. Join Elza and Solomon as they embark on a journey through magic, mystery, and the echoes of fate.